it's not our story, it's the story you create by who you are and the choices you make. And that starts with character creation.
Alright you guys, let's take a look at the Argos Extractor's record locator first. Now I believe this is the first menu you get in the character customization screen in Starfield. Basically you've got up top it says biometric ID in the top left there. It seems like this is just the character preset selector. Basically you would select a base for the character that you want to build here. You can see where it says personnel record, and sifting through those I think will give you the different presets that you can choose to start with and then customize and build upon. And you'll notice down there in the bottom left it says note biometric customizations can be changed later by visiting a genetics facility. So we know for sure that there will be somewhere where you can change your appearance later on in the game, which is common for Bethesda games, but at the same time it's nice to know that it's still there, considering a lot of games that should have had this feature did not. So rest assured you will be able to customize your character later in the game through a genetics facility. Just a small side note there, if you look down at the bottom left again where it says employee number, I noticed that shifting through the different presets and people you can choose, the employee number does not change at all. So you're not having a different number designation depending on who you choose either. I know that seems inconsequential, but just noticed that and thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, so after selecting your preset through the biometric ID category up top to the left there, it looks like the next category you're going to move on to is body. And here what's great is we get a full menu here dedicated to your body type, your weight, your size, your dimensions. You can see there it even says walk style and skin tone, and that's awesome. I'm not really sure about height because I know implementing different heights for your character can be difficult in certain games depending on, you know, how your character interacts with the world around you. And I mean, you know, it would be difficult to play the game surely if you made your character like 8 feet tall or even, you know, 2 or 3 feet tall. So like usually they'll give you height parameters within some level of realism so that you're not just like clipping through objects and sort of breaking the game with absurd levels of height. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to adjust your character's height necessarily, but there might be some presets there and customization options that allow you to have a little extra height or a little less height depending. But I did not see anything referencing height in the character customization screen. So we'll see when the game comes out, I guess, if there is any height customization whatsoever. I feel like this has been in a lot of games, so it's not like a huge groundbreaking thing. But at the same time, like I was talking about previously, the fact that some games have the ability to customize your character in the beginning, but not later on, I feel like allowing you to fully customize your character's body dimensions is similar to that's something that a lot of gamers miss, that they want more of in games, especially in a very deep and complex RPG. Because, you know, all Bethesda games have first and third person view for the most part, and you want to be able to see your character as you created them as part of the immersion, you know? We all like to create an interesting character that appeals to us, whether it be someone that looks like us and we can recreate ourselves or what we imagine we would be in this world, or something just completely radical and out in left field and even goofy and zany. You know, that's the fun right there, to create a character, to see them in game, to feel like your character you created is interacting with the world around you. So I really appreciate that. I know it's a common feature, but still, I'm glad it's in there. Okay, moving on, we can see we've got the third category there, which is face customization. And we've got 5 different subcategories there, starting with skin tone, then head shapes, hair color, and eyes. That may appear to be somewhat minimalist, but if you look to the far left there, you can actually see a scroll bar, which has quite a ways to go. So there's probably at least 3 times that many subcategories for customizing your face there, which is obviously another win. You know, if you can customize your weight and your size and your body dimensions, you want to be able to customize your face, your hair, and really get your character looking just like you want. So I'm not sure what the next categories are down below those 5 there, but I'm sure that there's plenty of things that you can do to create the face that you want. Okay, in the next category we can see here, the 4th one is background, and this is really cool. I'm excited about this one. This kind of reminds me more of the Outer Worlds by Obsidian. It's kind of more of like a deep dive RPG character building kind of mechanic here, where you can literally decide what lifestyle, what background you come from, and I'm sure it affects your skills, the interactions with people, the opportunities that are available to you. So I really like this concept, and I'm glad they brought it to this game. This part of the gameplay reveal is somewhat of a smaller segment, but they do have several traits that they've allowed us to kind of stop and pause on and look exactly what they do. So let's examine what some of these traits do for your character and how they may give you certain advantages over other traits. Okay, so this first trait we can see here is called Chef, and the description for this trait is: while the unrefined masses scarf down chunks by the shipload, you cater to those with a more discerning palate. In your kitchen, countless alien species become true culinary masterpieces. Okay, so that's some of that Bethesda humor there. I'm glad to see that's alive and well. Underneath Chef, you can see what the bonuses are for your character. You've got what are called starting skills there, and these are skills that your character will have from the beginning if you choose the Chef trait. And the first one is gastronomy. It says you can craft specialty food and drinks and research additional recipes at a research lab. So that's pretty cool. Dueling. Melee weapons do 10% more damage. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you'll find a like a culinary knife or some butcher tools that a chef would use. And wellness, you've got immediately gain 30 points of health. So, you know, eat healthy, you stay strong. You know what I mean? You gotta have that nutritional value. And the second trait we're able to see here is called Combat Medic. It says, leave it to human beings to fight over something as infinite as outer space. I hear that. That's where you come in. You've never been afraid to take on the enemy, but you'd much rather take care of your friends. Alright, so I guess this is somewhat of a more noble trait to have here. Your starting skills for Combat Medic are Pistol Certification. What that does is give you 10% more damage with pistols. Medicine, which gives you 10% more healing from med packs, and then your final starting skill there would be weightlifting, and that increases your total carrying capacity by 10 kilograms. That's a big one that I think a lot of people are going to like. I cannot stand in RPGs when I exceed my carry capacity and I have to start dropping stuff and deciding which things I value more than others and what I'm willing to let go of versus keep. But yeah, I feel like that's a good one there. Doing more damage with pistols and carry weight is definitely going to help you out in the beginning compared to a lot of other classes. Also, another thing I noticed is the fact that they use kilograms instead of pounds, which, I mean, to our European viewers here in America, we do miles and pounds, you know, instead of like kilometers and kilograms, which is odd to the rest of the world. I know we have our own weird way of doing things in America, but I just noticed that they're going by the European standard there, and I hope that's not a little confusing for American gamers. Surely it wouldn't be, but I'm assuming that they've adopted a more universal standard in the future, which makes sense that it would be kilograms and not pounds, considering that's what most of the world uses now. But anyway, moving on. Next we have an interesting trait called Cyber Runner. I feel like this might be kind of a reference to the fact that the game was inspired in some ways by Cyberpunk 2077, as far as the net runners and mercenary and cyber hacking and all that kind of stuff. But under Cyber Runner, this trait says, from Neon to New Atlantis, the megacorps stand as monuments to power, prestige, and profit. You've worked both for and against them, on the inside and out, often sacrificing conscience for credits. That's really interesting because it sounds a lot like the corporations in Night City in Cyberpunk, and especially the life path. If you choose to be a corpo, you're put in a position where your job kind of goes against your conscience and your moral compass in a lot of ways. There's a lot of shady stuff going on in the corporate world as far as espionage and assassination, cyber hacking, you know, and frying people's brains through neural networking stuff. But anyway, what are the draws of being a cyber runner or having the cyber runner trait? Well, your starting skills are just like the Combat Medic. Pistols do 10% more damage, so there's some overlap on that skill there. Security, you can attempt to hack advanced locks, and 2 auto attempts can be banked. So that's pretty cool. I suppose that means that you can obviously pick more advanced locks that you wouldn't have access to starting out otherwise, and that you get 2 extra auto attempts. I guess that means you automatically get 2 extra attempts per lockpick attempt, which is pretty cool. And persuasion, you gain an increased chance of success on speech challenges. So that's a big one right there. That usually goes hand in hand with the charisma skill in, like, say, Fallout, where the higher your charisma is, the more you're able to persuade or convince people to see your way to do certain things for you, which can come in handy a lot in that game, just depending on how you play. That's pretty cool though, so I like that. Okay, before we move on any further, I just need to correct myself really quick because I went back in editing and realized that I've been saying trait this whole time. That was my mistake. I meant to say backgrounds. When you're choosing for your character to be a combat medic or a chef or a cyber runner and so forth and so on, that's called a background. I've mistakenly referred to that as trait several times previously. I apologize for that, but just know that these are starting skills associated with backgrounds, not traits. Traits will actually be the next category that we're going to talk about in a minute, so I just wanted to clarify that real quick. Anyway, we're currently looking at the background called cyberneticist. Underneath it says robots, mere toys. Neuroamps, good for parlor tricks. The Colony War may have made implants and upgrades available to veterans, but you once saw a greater future, humans and machines as one. So, I'm guessing you got a really deep understanding of like technology and how to combine sort of cybernetics with like human biology. You know, that's pretty interesting. Your starting skills as a cyberneticist is medicine, which we saw before. Med packs heal 10% more. You've got robotics, that's a new one. You deal 10% more damage to robots and turrets. That sounds really familiar. Actually, you know what? That was in Cyberpunk 2077. There is a skill in your skill tree in your character progression system that does allow you to do more damage to robots and turrets. So that's a good one there. You've also got lasers, where your laser weapons do 10% more damage. That's kind of more of a Fallout classic staple there. There's a lot of laser and energy weapons in the Fallout series, and there's plenty of opportunities there to increase the damage you do with those as well. And last but not least, we have the final background that's available for us to take a look at here in the gameplay trailer, and that is Diplomat. It says, "The wars are over, peace now reigns the settled systems, but only because there are those quietly fighting to keep it. Because of you, agreements were signed, words were heeded, lives were spared." Alright, that's cool. So this seems like somebody who's definitely going to take more of a, not passive necessarily, but more intelligent approach to conflict. Your starting skills with this background are Persuasion is your first one, and it says you gain an increased chance of success on speech challenges. So that's pretty cool. I think we saw that one earlier as well. We've got Diplomacy, where you can force a target NPC at or below your level to stop fighting for a while. I don't know if I've ever seen something like that before. That's really interesting. You can basically make any opponent docile for a period of time if they're at your level or below your level. So, you know, it's like, hell, you're wasting my time. I'm not going to get that much experience from killing you anyway, so just chill out for a minute. And then right there at the end, you've got Bargaining. Buy items for 5% less and sell for 10% more. So at least we know that there is a starting skill associated with a background that can allow you to be better at trading, selling, and buying goods, getting discounts from vendors. And that's one that's been around for a while in several other games, and definitely comes in handy if you're trying to leverage the economy for your benefit. Alright, so that was the end of all the backgrounds that we can see from the trailer, but obviously if you look to the far right in this picture there's a scroll bar that goes down a little further, and there's plenty of backgrounds to choose from, including Explorer, Gangster, Homesteader, Industrialist, Long Hauler, Pilgrim, Professor, and Ronin. That one stands out to me, Ronin. I feel like you'd be good with like long swords, blades, like stealth stuff. I feel like that's going to be really popular background depending on what all the skills are there. So we're going to end that segment and move on to the next, which is traits. Not backgrounds, traits. I was calling the backgrounds traits before, but these are the actual traits. Now, the concept of traits in this game is really interesting, especially when you refer back to the developer diary called Into the Starfield. This one was called Made for Wanderers, and in this, Todd Howard talks about how they wanted to go back and do some things as far as traits and backgrounds and things that they feel like maybe they did a long time ago or they've gotten away from. So listen to this clip real quick and then we'll go into traits.
A lot of us have been doing this for a long time together, and it's nice with Starfield to go back to some things we didn't do, the backgrounds, the traits, the defining your character, all of those stats. And I think there's so many games now that do those things that people are ready for something that does a lot of the things that, you know, older hardcore RPGs, some that we used to do, doing those again in a new way.
So I like that these traits that we have here are kind of a manifestation of what Todd Howard was talking about in that developer diary as far as wanting to have more complex RPG systems and maybe going back to the roots a little bit and trying to implement more RPG systems into newer Bethesda games that they haven't really embraced as much recently. So I thought that was pretty neat there. So moving on to the fifth and final category, which is traits, of course. The first thing that stands out to me is that right there in the middle of the screen, there are 3 optional slots, and it says above traits 0 out of 3. So what that tells me is that you can actually choose 3 traits per character build. Whether or not there are some caveats to that as far as having skills that detract from others, and you may not want a lot of these skills, or you may want to just max it out and get all 3. It says optional. I'm assuming that means if you choose certain traits, it can actually make you less proficient at certain skills or aspects of the game. But it's kind of like a trade-off where you might be better at one thing but worse at another. So you may not actually want to have all 3 traits, considering it says that all 3 are optional there. There seems to be a lot of traits that they at least skim through in this video fairly quickly, and we can break it down and take a look at each one, but this video is already getting fairly long, and I figured we would just kind of read over these pretty quickly and see what they're all about. Let's take a look at the first one. It's called Introvert. This one says, you really need your alone time. You have more endurance when adventuring alone, but less when adventuring with other human companions. Can't be combined with extrovert. I guess that would make sense, right? You can't be both an introvert and an extrovert in most cases. This trait is going to be popular with those who do not like to travel with companions and would rather kick it lone wolf style. And the next one we have here is called Kid Stuff. Your parents are alive and well, and you can visit them at their home, but 10% of all the money you earn is deducted automatically and sent to them. This is so funny to me. I don't know why, man. Just having to send money home to your parents, that is hilarious. You know, I'm guessing that there has to be some upside to this, though, that like when you visit your parents, you can get bonuses or boosts or some kind of extra status or goods or something, because that's just silly. I mean, if there was no upside to this other than just having the companionship of your family or knowing that your parents are alive, I'm not sure a lot of people would want to choose this other than just having that level of immersion in the game. That's pretty cool, though. So look out for that one, all you mama's boys and daddy's girls. Okay, on to the next trait here. This one is very obviously inspired by the whole cyberpunk street kid life path. This one is called Neon Street Rat. And we've already seen how the city of Neon was pretty much inspired by Night City in Cyberpunk 2077. And I know I bring that up a lot. Maybe some of y'all are sick of me referencing that game because you hate it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this game was heavily inspired by many aspects of that game. You can see in my previous videos where Emil Pagliarulo and other members of the development team talked about how Cyberpunk was a direct inspiration for this game. But regardless, Neon Street Rat, you grew up on the mean streets of Neon. You gain access to special dialogue options and better rewards for some missions on Neon. Crime bounty by other factions is greatly increased. Can't be combined with any other faction allegiance trait. Okay, so this is like a true life path style. You know, because a lot of people complained that Cyberpunk did not live up to the life paths impacting the game past just the first 20 minutes, or the intro, or the prologue of the game. But it seems here that these traits will actually develop somewhat of a history with your character and a life path that will allow you to benefit and constantly make different decisions that impact your game as a whole, depending on which one you choose. The people on Neon are going to be more your people, it seems. They're going to interact with you better, and it makes sense there that it can't be combined with any other faction allegiance trait. Alright. This next trait here is interesting to me because I feel like it draws parallels between this faction in the game, which seems to be some kind of religious sect or organization, and the Children of the Atom in Fallout. But this one's called Raised Enlightened. You grew up as a member of the Enlightened. You gain a significant discount at the organization store, but lose access to Sanctum Universum store. Sanctum Universum, that sounds like something out of a Doctor Strange movie. Can't be combined with any other religion trait. So for all the more spiritual-minded players out there, this might be the trait for you. Now, based on what this next trait says, I feel like that the Sanctum Universum might be a adversary to the Enlightened, because it says here, Raised Universal. You grew up as a member of the Sanctum Universum. You gain a significant discount at the church store, but lose access to the Enlightened store. Can't be combined with any other religion trait. So I'm guessing you can't really be a part of these two different groups because they're somehow fundamentally opposed to each other. Universal and Sanctum Universum. They sound very similar, and they both seem like some kind of group or organization or possibly cult or religious sect that is kind of obsessed with spiritual enlightenment or a higher way of thinking. That just makes me wonder how they're going to interact with the religious fanatics from House of Veru, this group that was mentioned in one of the developer diaries as well. Seems like there's a lot of, you know, potentially volatile or warring classes or factions in this game. It would be really interesting to see how they interact with each other, or to see if you could pit them against each other. That would be cool too. But anyway, moving on to the next one. Now this next one here is really interesting, not just because of the name of the trait, but that what the trait doesn't seem to really match the name. It says Serpent's Embrace. You grew up worshipping the Great Serpent. Grab jumping provides a temporary boost to health and endurance. But health and endurance are lowered if you don't continue jumping regularly, like an addiction. Can be combined with any other religion trait. I'm not really sure what that has to do with a serpent or Serpent's Embrace. When I first saw that, I was like, ooh, that looks cool. That's like something I would gravitate towards, but I don't really understand what that necessarily has to do with a serpent. But that is definitely a odd, kind of quirky trait to have there. I mean, I guess I feel like that's one that I wouldn't necessarily appreciate until after I played the game through once or twice and realized, like, hey, I'm grab jumping a lot. I bet, you know, if I had this trait, that would give me higher health and endurance. But regardless, you know, that might actually stack well with another trait. Since you can have 3, I would be looking to stack this one with another one that sort of mitigated the effects of it or helped boost or increase its effects. Okay, next we have here Spaced. Your body has become acclimated to space. Health and endurance are increased when in space, but decreased when on the surface. Can be combined with terra firma. Okay, now that is that would be sort of a dilemma for me. You know, I don't know how much time you're going to spend in space or what the benefit of that would be necessarily over being on land. I mean, I would say if you spend equal time in space and on land in this game, that it really is just kind of more of a preferential thing, more than, you know, one benefits you over the other. That's a really cool though. That's a really cool concept though. I like how they kind of make you stop and think and ask, okay, well, how am I going to benefit from this, and am I going to regret not choosing this when I realize how much I enjoy playing in space or how much I enjoy playing on land or whatever. I feel like this is one that I would be inclined to choose from the start. Just because this is a space-based game, and I would really enjoy being in space, considering we've never done that in a Bethesda game. And any time that I spend in space, which I feel like would probably be more than on land. I mean, I say that now, but I just feel like I would benefit from that personally. And last, our final trait, and probably one of my favorites, Starter Home. Now this one is pretty neat. It's definitely got a downside, but it has a pretty cool way to start the game here. It says you own a small house on a peaceful little moon, but it comes with a 50,000 credit mortgage with Galbank. So that gives us a little bit of interesting info and lore on the game there, you know. I know this game's going to have its own economy, and there's going to be a lot of resource gathering and credit building and spending money and bartering and trading and buying and all that. But wow, you can start this game with a small house on a moon, a peaceful moon at that. But then you owe a credit mortgage to the bank. Galbank, I guess, is like the universal bank of this time that deals with everyone's credit, which I'm not sure what the money of this time is or what it's called, but it could just be credits, I don't know. I just thought that was really cool and interesting. That's a very unique trait. I feel like a lot of people are gonna want this one. And you see there on the screen, it's actually stacked with introvert. I guess it makes sense if you're an introvert, you want to have a small house on a peaceful moon by yourself, you know. But yeah, that's cool. I don't know, I might be looking for that one when I do my first playthrough, you know, because I feel like I've never been terrible at gathering a lot of credits or money in games and stuff, you know. You just have to work the system right, sell the right goods, set up something for you that works, you know, economically. I don't know if it would be wise though. I tend to acquire a lot of money, but I also tend to spend it very quickly, so I might I might be biting off a little more than I can chew with that one, but it definitely would be cool starting out with a peaceful home on a little moon, you know, in some star system somewhere. I wonder what the benefits are to that, you know? Can you go in and rest and get like an XP boost and eat? Can you store weapons there? You know, maybe there's like bobbleheads in this game you can put on your little shelf like Fallout. Who knows? But yeah, that's really cool, and that's definitely one of my favorite ones right there, so be looking out for that. Alright you guys, well that was pretty much the end of the character creation options that we could see there from the gameplay trailer. There's obviously a lot more to it, but I just wanted to take what we have from the gameplay reveal and break it down and see what we can expect and what we have to look forward to in the full game when it comes out in 2023. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate all of your input. Stay tuned for the next Starfield video as we look forward to the future.